Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. So today in this lecture we'll study about society question that came in 2024 GS1. We already had done geography and history question of 2024. So if we see the society question, so there are approximately 8 questions that came in GS paper 1 2024, but one question that is of demographic winter we had taken in geography session. So let's begin. So there are total 8 questions. One question that we had taken in geography session. So on an average, if we see society cover 100 marks from 2013 to 2024, there was 6 to 7 questions from society part. So society is a deciding factor also. Now see what type of question came in GS paper. Type of question in society. See what happened in society. For society question, you have to interlink point. So the question is not direct from your notes. So some part cover in different notes, different topic, like some points are from globalization, some points are from women. So what you have to do in the examination hall only, you have to interlink that point and write answer. Generate point on the in the examination hall only. So this is very challenging also. How to generate point on that time only. So for this challenge, there is templates. So for society question, these work very good. If you have template in your mind, so the point generation in society is very easy. Now see, society question are comparatively in 2024, they are comparatively doable. Because what happened earlier, UPSC asked question on the subtopic of topics, like if there is topic marginalized section. So what UPSC did, UPSC asked question on tribal. So it is hard to generate 5 to 6 point on tribal. But what happened in 2024, UPSC asked question on the marginalized section. So what happened? So this topic like marginalized section. So for you, this is comparatively doable because you have very dimension, 6 to 7 dimension, 5 to 6 dimension. So you easily generate point. So everyone know what is marginalized section, who are marginalized section. So women, SC, ST, OBC, elderly, children. So it is easy for you to do this type of question that was asked in UPSC 2024. So let's begin our first question. Precisely, we are beginning with 10 marker question. So this is 10 marker question that UPSC asked in 2024. So what question says that distinguish between gender equality, gender equity and women empowerment. Why is it important to take gender concern into account in program design and implementation? So see question, this is 10 marker question. So in the question itself there were 5 dimensions. What was that? One is gender equality, second is gender equity, third is women empowerment, and fourth is gender concern into account in program design, that is fourth, and fifth is in implementation. So it is very easy question to write, because if you know the definition of this term, one is gender equality, second is gender equity, and third is women empowerment. So you have to know the definition of this point. And 2.1, this program design and implementation, that why gender concern are taken into account in program design and implementation. So 150 words, you have to write 150 words. So in the question itself, there was 5 dimension. If you know the point on each dimension, 1 or 2 point, so it is easy to answer this type of question. Now analyze the demand of the question, that what's the demand of this question. Now see, first in an intro part, now society question, there was 4 to 5 type of intro. First is data, when you start with data or an event. So when the question is on increasing, decreasing, so in that question you have to start with the data and the event. So when the question on the term, like they distinguish between the, so they in the question they are directly asking this term. So in this way the best intro is definition. If you know the definition, start with the definition itself. Third is contest. So many questions UPSC asked in the context of, in the light of. So in which the contest, so in the contest you have to write your introduction. So suppose something is asked on the context of globalization. So it is good to start with the globalization. Fourth is premise. Premise means if you know any background, then you have to write that background in intro part. Fourth is significance. So in some type of question, if you know the significance of that question, so write in the intro significance of that question and then write the body part. So there are 4 to 5 type of intro in the society question. According to the question, this intro varies. Now see, in this question, so in this question directly you have to start with the definition, but there is distinguish also. So this is a word, keyword. One keyword is distinguish. Now if there is any question like comparable, distinguish, differentiate, so it is recommended that you have to draw a table and then differentiate. So here you have to draw a table. One is gender equality, then the gender equity, and then the women empowerment. So in first row you will write definition, and in the second example. So if you don't know anything, generate a table, write definition and example. Now in this question, first demand, you have to define terms, define these 3 terms. Then second, distinguish them. Third, why gender concern are important in policy making and implementation, and fourth is conclusion. So this is your structure, that this you have to write in your answer. Now in an intro part, either define the term, but you have to make a table. In that table you will write definition. So here recommend don't define the term, here you show the interlinkage between these 3 terms, that yes, there is a interlinkage between the gender equality, gender equity and women empowerment, but they are distinct terms, have different definition and are following. Then make a table on this term. Now what is gender equality for you? See, there are three terms. One is gender equality. One is gender equality. Second is gender equity. And third is, that is more specific towards the women, that is women empowerment. Because in India, gender is not about man or woman, it's also transgender. So what is gender equality for you? So no discrimination in gender. So this is gender equality, that there should be no discrimination in genders, in man, woman and transgender. Then what is gender equity? Equity means fair treatment. Fair treatment according to individual needs. So equity is more about fair and just treatment. And women empowerment is more about access to autonomy, decision making power, or increase women potential. Increase women potential. So this is women empowerment. Now these three things are like later. First is women empowerment. Women empowerment. By what? By skill improvement, by education. So women empowerment itself is means and ends. So we have to empower women, educated them, skill improvement, this all is women empowerment. Then came the women equity. So this is process. So what is women equity? That is fair treatment. Fair treatment means the level playing field. There should be level playing field for genders. So there is same starting point for every gender. So for that, what we do, we go on towards the gender equity, and the final goal is gender equality. So this is our goal, that after this gender equity, when the level playing field is equal for man and woman, there should be no discrimination. No discrimination between the man and woman. For example, see, for women empowerment, so there are various skill improvement programs. So this is the example of women empowerment. We are improving skills of women. So second is gender equity. So the example of gender equity that we are that the reservation. Oh, sorry. So the first example of women empowerment is skill improvement programs. Second is gender equity. So for level playing field, there is what? There is reservation. there is a reservation for genders, for women. Third is gender equality. So for gender equality, there is equal pay for equal work. So there should be equal pay for equal work. So now this is clear that what is women empowerment, what is gender equity, and what is gender equality. So the women empowerment is a mean, gender equity is a process, and gender equality is a goal. Now, so you have to make a table. Here is gender equality, here is gender equity, and here is women empowerment. So, and here is definition and then the example. So in the definition, that there is no discrimination with respect to genders, that is men, women and transgender. Example, that equal pay for equal work. So this is gender equality. Gender equity, that there should be fair treatment according to individual needs. For example, there is reservation, 33% reservation for women. Then the women empowerment specific towards the women. So access to autonomy, decision making power of women, or increase the women potential. For example, there are many skill improvement programs. So in this way, you have to make a proper table in your answer. Then the next part is that why this gender concern taken into account while making policy and their implementation. So why it is important to take gender concern? So think points. So here you have to write 4 to 5 points on this. So how you will think? So when this type of question, think about the individual level, that why it is important to take to taken into consideration gender concern at the individual level, then at the societal level, and then at the national level. At the national level. So in this way you have to generate your point in your mind. So at the individual level, what is happening due to this taken into account gender concern in policy making and implementation? First point is there is poverty eradication. Now second point, there should be economy growth or inclusive growth. Now, so in this way you have to generate 3-4 points, one on the individual level, then the societal level, and then on the national level. See, See, in your introduction part, what happened? Gender relationship, social, economic and potential outcome with equality, equity, empowerment are interlinked and they have distinct meaning and implication. So first you will write about, yes, they are interlinked but they have distinct meaning and the implication. Now you make a table. Either make a table or do this in this way if you have to fill space. So gender equality meaning, gender equity meaning and women empowerment meaning. Then you also make this diagram. Either make this diagram or that ladder diagram. So either this diagram or this diagram to make your answer more and more presentable. So this is gender equality is our goal. This is our process and this is our end and means. Now for the point. So why address gender concern in policy design? So one point on the individual level, that is poverty eradication. There is caste discrimination in the society. Structural inequalities are also existing in our society. So if we consider gender concern, in our policy making, then these structural inequalities were reduced. Second is, third point is inclusive growth at the national level. If the women are empowered, if the women concerned are taken into account in policy implementation or policy design, then according to World Bank, if women were empowered and participating in workforce, then they use 30% of their salary in welfare program. So if you taken the account women concern, in policy making and implementation, then what is happening? There is overall inclusive growth in our society. Then the governance outcome. So obviously there is increase in the governance, grassroots governance in our society if we take the gender concern into policy making and implementation. Then there is legal and international commitment also. You know that our constitution have provision for gender concern taken into account. First is constitutional mandate, that is article 14, article 15, article 16, article 39A, and the international, that is convention on the elimination of all form of discrimination against women. So in this way you have to write 5 to 6 points. So think on this line in the individual level, then on the societal level, and then on the national level. So easily you get points on this. Then how to conclude this type of question? See, for the conclusion, so there are 3 types of conclusion as well in society. So according to question, so if the question is about the problem, so in conclusion you have to give the solution. So in that type of question you conclude your answer with while giving the solution of that problem. If the solution is the question only, so if solution is given on in the question only, then conclude your answer on government scheme, that what are government doing for this government schemes. Third, very best, that is SDG, learn all SDG and write in conclusion. So this is a third. And fourth is significance. So you can also use the significance as a conclusion also. So now see this type of question, how to conclude this. So you can also give some case study. I have given 3 case study. That one is PM Ujjwala Yojana, second is MG Nirega, and third is Seva. That how these schemes taken into account gender concern. See, ensure MG Nirega ensure that at least 1/3 of the workforce consists of women. This will ensure income and bargaining power of the women. So in this way, either one or two case study, if you remember, then give that. So conclude your answer that gender equality is a goal, gender equity is a process, and women empowerment is both end and mean. Integrating gender perspective in policy making and implementation not not only ensure social justice but also accelerate economic growth and ensure democracy. So in this way you have to conclude this answer. Now the second question, let's come to second question. This is also a 10 marker question. So see what question is asking. Intercaste marriages between castes which have socio-economic parity have increased to some extent, but this is less true in inter-religious marriages discussed. See, earlier what happened? UPSC asked question on caste. UPSC asked question on marriages. So now what did UPSC interlink these two and generate inter-caste marriages. So in your notes you have point on caste, you have points on marriage, but you have to interlink these two different points and make one point on intercaste marriages. So this interlinkage is very important to while dealing with the society answer. So what question is saying that intercaste marriages between caste which have socio-economic parity. So the question is saying that caste which have socio-economic parity. So if there is caste 1, caste 2, so if they have socio-economic parity, the intercaste marriages is increasing, but increased to some extent, somewhat increasing. So they are increasing somewhat. But this trend is not true for interreligious marriages or interfaith marriages, that having socio-economic parity doesn't impact much on interreligious marriages. So if there is caste 1 and caste 2 and they have the socio-economic parity, then what happened? The marriages between these two castes is possible now somewhat. But if there is one religion and there is second religion, so the marriages, interreligious marriages, even not so much increased, even they have socio-economic parity. So question is about this, that why intercaste marriages are increasing in which have socio-economic parity and interreligious marriages are not following this trend. So first is intro. So you have to link intercaste marriages with socio-economic factors. And then second demand is you have to write that why intercaste marriages increased between equals or people which have socio-economic parity. Then the third, why interreligious marriages are not follow this trend. And then fourth is conclusion. So in this way you have to write the answer. There are four demands of the question. One, you have to interlink the intercaste marriages, link intercaste marriages with socio-economic parity, that why it is happening. Third, that why there is increase in the intercaste marriages between the equals, what are that points, write 4 to 5 points. And why inter-religious marriages are not following this trend, then why, write 4-5 points on this, and then conclude your answer. So in the intro part, what you have to do, so in this type of question, see, I told you 4 type of intro. Now the question is saying that something is increasing, something is decreasing. So best way to start this type of question, if you have data, start with question with data. Prove that yes, this is increasing. So there is data of National Family Health Survey, which says that intercaste marriages is 5.8%, but interreligious marriages are only 2%. So if you know the data, start this type of question with data. Now suppose you don't know the data, you don't remember the data, then the best way is, here is marriages. So start with marriage. That marriage is social institution that, start like this, that marriage is social institution in our society, in our India, where caste and religion both influence the marriage structure, but the intensity and nature of barrier differ in both. So if you see the marriage in India, so caste also influence marriage, religion also influence marriage, but what happen, the nature of barrier is differ. The intensities also differ. So the intensity of influence of caste on marriages is differ with the intensity of religion on marriages. So now either start with the data that I given. So there are also one data on Oxford survey. Oxford survey 2016. So it also gives data on interfaith marriages. That interfaith marriages in India, while having socio-economic parity, is decreasing. So either use any data, or if you don't remember the data, start the question with the marriages that show that marriages is impacted by both caste and religion, but the nature of barrier and intensity of that influence is differ in both. So in this way you have to interlink both caste and religion. Now, so in this way you have to introduce your answer. Now the body part. So in body part, first is that why intercaste marriages are increasing between equals, because this is increasing in people which have socio-economic parity. So write 2-3 points that why intercaste marriages is increasing. See what happening, due to globalization, There increase urbanization. Due to urbanization, what happened? There is public space. So there is more public and professional space. All are living in the same area, all are working in same MNC. So what happening? Due to that, caste surveillance is reducing. Caste consciousness is reducing. So due to this factor, what happened? The families now consider the lifestyle level, the income level while go for marriages. So earlier what happened? There is a notion of purity and pollution. So people were more considered that Brahman will not marry to Kshatriya. Or there is also subcaste endogamy was also existed, that between the Brahmins there was different subcaste, and these subcaste marriages between themselves only. But due to this economic parity, that socio-economic parity, now people are more consider income level, lifestyle level. So the caste consciousness is decreasing now, that the caste surveillance is decreasing. That's why there is increase in the inter-caste marriages. But what happened in the inter-religious marriages? See, caste is not that rigid as compared to religion. So religion is rigid. So even have socio-economic parity, these rigidness is not gone. So the interfaith marriages is decreasing, not decreasing. Interfaith marriages are very low in India. There was also prejudice, stereotype existed in India. That's why also interfaith marriages are not so much prevalent in India. Then third is, there was political agenda also. You know that love jihad narrative. This is also existing in India. Also there is legal hurdles also. So if you know Special Marriage Act provides 30 days time period for registration in interfaith marriages. So it gives the slot of 30 period. So in that 30 days period, there is harassment, there is pressure, which became hurdle in interfaith marriages. So these are the following factors that you have to write in your body part, that why intercaste marriages is increasing: because of caste delusion, because of economic growth, because of lifestyle changes, because of attitudinal changes. And why interfaith marriages are not common? Because of there is prejudice existed in our society. There is legal hurdles in our society, mentioned Special Marriage Act. There is political agenda like love jihad narrative. So in this way you have to write 3 or 4 points on each part and then conclude your answer. See, this question is about not, we can say, problem, but you have to give solution that yes, intercaste marriages is increasing, but interfaith marriages should also be increased. So what do for that, give solution that there should be attitudinal change, reform legal acts, So in this way you have to conclude your answer, you have to give solution. If you have some government scheme which promote interfaith marriages, then you can also write this scheme in your conclusion part. Like intercaste marriages, there is monetary benefit is given, monetary benefit is given by government. In Ambedkar scheme is Ambedkar scheme by government for intercaste marriages. So there should be also a scheme for interfaith marriages that government should follow. So in this way you have to conclude your answer while giving some solutions, some government schemes in this type of question. Now see the model answer. So either if you don't have the data, go with the marriage. If you have data, so I also provide data, to go with the data for intro part. Because in this type of question, this data intro will be more specific. Now, why this intercaste marriages is increasing among equal? I told you there is socio-economic factor like economic homogeneity, that families focus on more income level, more lifestyle level. There is urbanization and nuclear family. There is cultural and policy shift, that what happened there is shared workforce, workspaces, there is more professional space. Now the people are living together, so the culture dilute caste consciousness. Government initiative, that government also provide monetary benefit for intercaste marriages, and due to that also intercaste marriages are more as compared to interfaith marriages. And there is social mobility as well. So what happened? So there are various schemes given by government to marginalized section. So they are very welfare schemes given by government. So what happened due to like reservation? We can take an example of reservation. So due to that lower caste people are now adopting upper caste lifestyle, because they are now empowered due to these welfare schemes given by government. So they are adopting lifestyles of upper class or middle class. So what happened now? The lower caste mobility is increases. So the difference between the lifestyle is now no more. So here is lower caste, here is upper caste. So the lifestyle more and equal is more or less is equal now between the lower caste or the upper caste. So this also reduce that caste consciousness or caste surveillance. So this is also a point you can write about why intercaste marriages is increasing. Now why these interreligious marriages remain rare? So there is religious identities as immutable. So religious identity is very rigid as compared to caste identity. So this is rigid, harder to compromise than caste. So in caste, due to this income rise, due to this lifestyle rise, what happened? People are compromised with caste, but people are not compromised with religion, because religion identity is more rigid. Now the culture and legal barrier, there is Special Marriage Act provide 30 days public notice, allowing opposition, allowing time for harassment. Then the social and political factor, there is community backlash also, there is fear of ostracism, honor violence. There is political polarization, love jihad narrative, I told you that. So this point you have to write in body part. There is ritual and cultural mismatch also. So in this way if you have space left, this is 10 marker question, but if you have space left, then show this flow chart. So this will make your answer more presentable, because we don't have diagram on this question. So if you don't have diagram, so draw these flow charts. So in flow chart you have to explain that due to socio-economic parity, what happens, there is economic equality, and due to this economic equality there is social mobility. Now the lower caste people are considered, now the lower caste lifestyle is equal to upper caste lifestyle. Due to the social mobility, what happen, there is urban exposure. So what is happening, due to this socio-economic parity there is urban exposure, and due to this urban exposure there is inter-caste marriages because the caste consciousness is reducing. But on the other hand, what happen, uh, even having economic equality, religious boundaries are rigid as compared to caste, and due to which inter-religion marriages are decreasing. So in this way you have to make a flow chart if you have space. Now in this type of question, how to conclude your answer, I am already told you that give any solution or recommendation, or if you have government scheme then write about the government scheme. While caste hierarchy are softening in certain economic contexts, religious remain deeper fault line in Indian society. Overcoming it will require legal reform, cultural dialogue, and education-driven attitudinal change. So, what you are giving? You are giving some recommendation. One is legal reform, second is cultural dialogue, and third is education driven attitudinal change. So in this way you have to conclude your answer. So now came to our third question, that is also a 10 marker question. Say the so read the question. Question is saying, in dealing with the socio-economic issues of development, what kind of collaboration between government, NGO and the private sector would be most reproductive? So ideally this is question of GS2, governance and plus social justice part. But this question is asked in GS1. So if you are sitting in first paper, so it is not hard for you to write this question, because after 2 hours there is GS paper 2. So you are prepared for GS2, so this is easy to write. So what say question, that while dealing socio-economic issue, so first you think about that what are the socio-economic issues that are existed in our society. So there is caste issue, there is religion issue, there is inequality issue. So poverty issue. So in this way, first while reading this question in your mind, strike that what type of socio-economic issue that are existed in our society. That in dealing with socio-economic issue of development, what kind of collaboration? So question is about what kind of collaboration between the government, NGO and private sector. So question is asking about that what type of collaboration is there, is the best collaboration or the most productive collaboration that you recommend for dealing with the socio-economic issue of development. So when I say this term development, NGO and private sector, this diagram came into mind, that yes, there is a collaboration between government, private sector and the NGOs. So now what's the demand of the question? Here first, in the intro part, you will link socio-economic problems, socio-economic issues with development. That due to this development is lacking. If you have the data, so you have data on poverty, you have data on inequality. So write this data in your intro part. So 10% of population in our India are living below poverty line. For inequality, there is famous report, Oxfam report, which say that 1% of 1% people that were richest contain 40% of wealth. You can also quote here gender inequality index, that our rank is 129th in gender inequality index. So if you have data, write data in introduction, or if you don't have वैसे तो you have poverty data, you have inequality data, because these are the basic data that you should have in GS paper 1. Now if you don't remember the data, so link in intro, link socio-economic issue, that was poverty, that was marginalized section, inequality, which hinder the development. So you have to link the socio-economic issues with the development. Now second demand is kind of collaboration. Kind of collaboration. So in this, you know about PPP model, you give example also. Then you know about CSR model, that is company social responsibility. Third is outcome oriented model, that the finance are linked to the outcome. So here you also give example. Also there is data driven model. So first is PPP, you give example. Second is CSR, example. Third is outcome oriented model. Here is also example of social impact bond by Rajasthan. Fourth is data driven model, that the data is used while making policy. Fifth is community engagement. Sixth is capacity building. So these all model you have to know while writing this answer. So these answer require examples. So you have to know the example, basic example, like PPM model you have example, CSR model you have example, outcome oriented model. So this model you generate an example, this you know about the social impact bond. So from that you here write the outcome based model. Then the data driven model, you can also give example of Niti Aayog data while making the policy and implementation. And the community engagement, here you will give example of Seva NGO. So in this way you have to give 4 to 5 most productive model of where this collaboration is there between NGO, between government and between private sector. So this diagram, see, so you have to draw the diagram also. So here is government. Government will give you the policy reform, infrastructure. Here the private sector. What private sector strength is? Investment, skill improvement, technology, and there is NGO. And what's NGO strength is? Community engagement, and then social mobility. So these are the strength of these three institutions: NGO, government, and private sector. And this most productive collaboration increase inclusive development in our society. So in this way, you have to make a comprehensive diagram on this collaboration. Now, if you have data, write data on poverty in introduction part. Poverty, inequality, that GII ranking. Or if you don't have the right data, then you will link socio-economic issues such as poverty, malnutrition, unemployment, gender equality, and lack of access to health or education are complex, multidimensional, and interlinked. Addressing them require a convergence model of which government provide policy direction, NGO bring community contact, and the private sector offer capital, technology, and managerial skill. Then draw diagram, that diagram, and then the framework of productive collaboration. So here this is optional. If you have space, then write the basic strength of government, NGO or private sector, or otherwise start with most productive collaboration model. First is co-creation of program, that the policies and schemes should be designed jointly by government, NGO, private sector from the inception stage. So while making the policy, these government, NGO and private sector were there to design the policy. So here you can give the example of National Skill Development Mission industry. So while introducing this mission, National Skill Development Mission, so there was CII and FICCI was there to help to formation of National Skill Development Mission. So in this way, you have to consult NGOs, you have to consult private sector while making the policy. Second productive model is PPP sector. So you can give example of watershed development project in Maharashtra. Government, what happened in PPP model? You all know that government fund, NGO mobilize, and farmer participation in maintenance, and the private sector give the technology. Third is outcome linked accountability. So there should be funding and incentive should be tied to measurable outputs and outcomes. So rather than just activities or expenditure, this will prevent the misuse of fund. So you can give example of that: social impact bond in Rajasthan, education improvement, where private investor and NGOs get paid only if learning outcome improve. So in this way, you have to collaborate between the NGOs and the private sector. Then there is capacity building for sustainability. So here you can give example of Seva. Then so here this type of question you will write the significance of this model, because in this question solution is given in the question itself. So you know, for these socio-economic issues, the best way to collaborate between the NGOs, government and the private sector. So the solution is given in the question itself. So how to conclude this type of question is, If you have government scheme regarding this, that government is doing this, to write that scheme, or otherwise write significance. Yes, significance of that solution, that yes, this is the most productive model, the synergetic approach where each actor complement the other, ensure inclusive, scalable and sustainable development, fulfilling both constitutional mandate and SDG 70. So in this way you have to conclude the answer, either 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 by government scheme, either conclude by what government is doing for this, or significance of this model, significance, or inference. So you can also conclude with the good inference of the answer that you have written above. So in this way you have to conclude the answer. Let's move to our fourth question, and we are starting with the 15 marker. So this is 15 marker question. See, question says, what is regional disparity? How does it differ from diversity? How serious is the issue for regional disparity in India? So the question has three parts. First, what is regional disparity? Second, how does it differ from diversity? So there is you have to write the difference between the disparity and diversity. And how serious is the issue for regional disparity in India? So what's the demand of the question? First, that you have to define regional disparity. Second, you have to differentiate between diversity and disparity. And third is, you have to show that how serious is the issue of regional disparity, and then conclusion. So while saying this question, first what have to write in intro? So the question is all about define regional disparity. So in this type of question, intro is define regional disparity. Definition of regional disparity is our intro. Now there is other part. How does it differ from diversity? So here what you have to make a table which where you differentiate disparity and diversity, that how these both terms are differ. And third part, you have to define the seriousness of issue. How will you define the seriousness of issue? If something is serious, then how will you say this is serious? So for seriousness, you have to generate point. First you have data. First show that yes, this is the data which show that how serious is the issue, plus consequences. You also have to tell that yes, this is serious, and due to that this is the consequences of that issue, of that term. So in this way you have to show the seriousness of the issue. So you have to generate point keeping in mind that yes, if I have to generate point while showing seriousness of the issue, first I have to remember the data, and second point is about the consequences. So in this way you have to show the seriousness, and then the conclusion part. So this is question. So if you write that how serious is the issue, the best way to conclude this answer is way forward. So you have to give solution that yes, this is serious, this is the consequences of this issue, and there are some way forward for this. So the way forward is your conclusion in this type of question. Hope this clear how to structure this question in your mind within 15 to 20 seconds, that yes, I'll write this part in my answer. Now, what is regional disparity? So when we read about regionalism, the very first topic we'll read, that is regional disparity. Regional disparity. So what is regional disparity? There is unequal level of development, income, opportunities in two geographical area within a country. Within a country is known as regional disparity when there is two geographical area and one is there is unequal level of, one is very developed, one is less developed, one have more source of income, second have less source of income, or the one having many opportunities but the other having less opportunity, make a unequal level, make unequal level, which result into economic disparity. So this is economic diversity, economic disparity, sorry. Now the term is economic diversity, regional diversity. So what is diversity? So diversity is a positive term. So diversity is variation, variation in language, religion, culture, ethnic groups. So this is diversity. So we celebrate diversity. We celebrate diversity in India, but on the other hand, there is disparity. Disparity is more about imbalance. Imbalance, and disparity is a negative term. So disparity is a have negative connotation and diversity have positive connotation. While disparity is more about imbalance in the society, unequal level of development, income, opportunities in our society, but diversity is the variation in our society. We celebrate diversity in India, but regional disparity is a issue in Indian society. So hope this clear how diversity and disparity differ. Now came how serious is the issue. How serious is the issue? How the serious is regional disparity? See, seriousness. So how you show the seriousness? First, there is economic disparity. Economic disparity existed in our society. You know that income, per capita income. One second. So first is economic disparity. So there is per capita income of Goa. Per capita income of Goa is much higher, whereas per capita income of Bihar is much lesser. So there exists economic disparity where unequal level of per capita income between the two geographical area, which result into regional disparity among these two geographical area. Then second is infrastructure gaps. So if you know that Maharashtra highway, if you compare Maharashtra National Highway and if you compare Northeastern Highway, So this is one state, this is group of states. So they have less highway than the Maharashtra only. So this also generate a disparity among the two nations. So there is exist social disparity as well. Social disparity. Social disparity. So if you know the literacy rate of Kerala and compare the literacy rate of Bihar. So there is a disparity existed in literacy rate, infant mortality rate of Kerala compare with infant mortality rate of MP, which is much higher. So there is also a social disparity existed between the two nations. If you see the broader, so disparity existed in three level. One is intra-state level. Intra-state level. One is interstate level. And one on the broader in national level. So, not national level, supra level, because it is a disparity existed within the country. So, first is intrastate level, and second is interstate level, and third is supra state level. So this regional disparity existed in three different levels. Intrastate level, you know, Vidarbha. So within a state, there was some people demand for the other state. So this exists intrastate disparity. Then the interstate. So I'll give you the example of two states, Kerala and Bihar. Literacy rate. So there exists a disparity. Suprastate, a group of states. If you see the northern state compared to southern state. Or I'll also give you example of Maharashtra and northeastern state. There's a group of states. So if you see the comparison between the group of states, so there exists a supra level disparity. So see the model answer. First, in the intro part, what you have to define the regional disparity, that what is regional disparity, refer to the unequal level of development, income, opportunity and access of basic service between different geographical area within a country. Example, high per capita income of Goa versus low in Bihar. And then in contrast, regional diversity means natural, cultural and socio-economic difference between regions that do not inherently imply inequality, because in India we celebrate diversity. So diversity inherently it doesn't imply inequality. For example, the cuisine of Kerala versus Himachal Pradesh is diversity, not disparity. So here you make a table, either represented in this way or either make a table. So I prefer to make a table in this way if I write the answer. So regional disparity, you have to make a table like this. So here is regional disparity. Here is regional diversity. And here first is nature, second is impact, and third is example. So if you know the if you see regional disparity, the nature and then the impact So the nature of regional disparity shows inequality, imbalance, whereas the regional diversity show variety, differences, impact. This result into socio-economic marginalization, and these result into cultural richness. Example, here you can give the example of literacy rate of Kerala and Bihar, and here you can give example of different language existed in our nation. So in this way you have to make a table, because the question, in a question there is the one part differentiate diversity and disparity. So you have to make a table. Now how serious so if space left, as this is 15 marker question, so you can give this graphical representation also. So here is, this graph is of regional diversity, here is equal level, and here is different region. So different region, so there is different type of language, different type of culture, different type of religion. So the level of these are same, so they are not resulting in inequality or imbalance. But on the other hand, regional disparity, it shows imbalance. So these graphs are unequal graphs. Some state are more developed, some state are less developed. So these make a imbalance and inequality between the two regions. So if you have space, then or make your answer more and more presentable. So you can make this graphical representation also, both term regional diversity and regional disparity. So you can also draw a map also here. India map, I'll show you like this. So either show the graphical representation, or either make a graph on disparity in India. So here, so this is a graph of HDI category, very high HDI. So here is there is Goa, this is only one state, high HDI. So there is some southern state, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and medium, here the middle India. So in this way you have to present your answer. So either make that diagram, make graphical representation, or either make a graph. Now how for seriousness, first you have to mention the data that there exists economic disparity, give per capita income gap, then there is social disparity, literacy rate example, infant mortality rate example, infrastructural gap. So there is, I give you the example of Maharashtra and northern state. Then the political and society security implication also. So there is in northeast India there is left wing extremism. So you can also give this. Now the seriousness is now you have to write about the consequences also. If you give the data, so there should be consequences also. For the consequences there is a template, there is social consequences, there is a political consequences. So think about that, what are the economic consequences of this regional disparity. So there is concentration of industries in various states. So what happened, so there is virtuous and vicious cycle between the virtuous cycle and one second. So what happen if this is a one state and this is a another state. So this is more developed state, more developed. So there is more development, there is less development. So what happens? New industries are came in the developed nation. So there is more investment in this region, more investment is there, more FDI is there, more number of industries are there. So what happened? These grow up. So the already developed region became more developed. And what happened in this area? There is no investment, no FDI, no industries. So the already underdeveloped area become more underdeveloped. So this is virtuous and vicious cycle that existed, and that is the consequences of regional economic consequences of regional disparity. Now, what are the social consequences? So there is poor health and education outcome. So there is higher poverty level. What are the political consequences? So what are the alienation of backward region? There is a special state mentioned here. You can also mention the extremist attitude. Then the society security consequences, you can write about the extremist movement or border area vulnerability. So this question is about the problem. So in conclusion, what you have to give the solution or simply write 2-3 way forward. This also a conclusion. This act also a conclusion for you. So while regional diversity in India's strength and reflects its civilization pluralism, regional disparity undermine inclusive growth, threaten social harmony, and challenge federal cohesion. Addressing disparity through targeted policies, inclusive planning, and cooperative governance is essential to achieving Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. So here you give some solution that there is inclusive planning, there is targeted policy, there is cooperative governance. Also you can write about there is vocational training, there is holistical development in is essential for achieving. So you can use this Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas. So in this way you have to conclude this type of question. Now came to our next question, that is despite comprehensive policy for equity and social justice, underprivileged section are not yet getting the full benefit of affirmative action emphasized by Constitution comment. So this is also a GS2 question which was asked by UPSC in GS1. So the question says, while having comprehensive policies for underprivileged section, but the full benefit are not given to that section. So first demand, analyze the demand. First question is about comprehensive policies and provision in Constitution for underprivileged section. So you have to know about different policies and constitutional provision for the underprivileged section which were given by the government and Constitution. Now, considering this statement that despite comprehensive policy for equity and social justice, this is first part. Second is underprivileged section are not get full benefit of affirmative action emphasized by the government. Second is why underprivileged section not getting full benefit of these policies and provision given in the Constitution. And third is the conclusion. So this question is also highlight the problem that there is a loophole, there is a gaps why these underprivileged section are not getting the full benefit. So there is some gaps, there is some problem. So how to conclude this? So you have to give way forward. So either write 4-5 points on way forward or give solution as conclusion. Now, best way to start this question is Constitution provisions for underprivileged section. So who are underprivileged section? SC, ST, OBC. So what are the constitutional provision given? So there is Article 14, there is Article 15 clause 4, there is 16 clause 4, there is affirmation actions, affirmative actions. So policies of government. So there is welfare policies, tribal policies. You can give examples also if you have. So you have to write the policy. So start with the question with the constitution provision and the policies by the government for the for underprivileged section. So this is the best way to start this question. For the body part, why full benefits are not for these policies and constitutional provision given to underprivileged section. So why? So there are some gaps. What are these gaps? So you have to write the 4-5 points on this gap. So why the full benefit is not given to underprivileged section? First, there is lack of awareness. You can also use the template of A, B, C, D, E. So when you don't know anything, think in A, B, C, D, E template. So A is awareness. There is lack of awareness among the beneficiaries. Second is bureaucratic hurdles. Bureaucratic hurdles or implementation gap. You can also say implementation gap. There is bureaucratic attitudinal corruption. So all these in one point, that is bureaucratic hurdle or implementation gap. C is centralization. So due to centralized policy, the benefit not reach at grassroots levels. D is decentralization also. So there is lack of funds, lack of judiciaries. So how they implement these policies? Then the E is engagement. That the community engagement is not there. That's why the full benefit is not given to underprivileged section. So in this way you have to generate points and give example. So in conclusion, you have to give some solution that vocational training should be there, capacity building should be there, data driven policy making should be there, so that the every beneficiary will covers. So see the model answer, start with the constitutional provision or the policy. The Indian Constitution, write this article 14-15, affirmative actions. So I also give the interlinkage line between these two, that however despite over 7 decades of these measures, socio-economic disparities still persist and the transformative promise of the constitution is only partially fulfilled. So this gave a interlinkage between your introduction and your body part. Why these full benefits are not reaching to the underprivileged section? One is implementation gap, there is bureaucratic hurdles, there is uneven quality of opportunities. You can give data also. There is ASSET 2023 report that basic reading skill in rural SC/ST children lag significantly behind the national average. So you can give this report also. Structural socio-economic barrier, there is caste discrimination, social discrimination still existed in our society. Then the policy design limitation, that there is a policy limitation as well. So still the policies are for the vote accumulation, not for the capacity building of the people. So there is policy design limitation as well. And there exists, see, this is a previous question, there is a regional disparity. One of the one of the reason that regional disparity, backward state like Jharkhand, Bihar show weaker implementation, or whereas Tamil Nadu and Kerala, the implementation of policies are very good. So this is also due to regional disparity. The full benefit of the government policies and constitutional provisions are not fulfilled. Then way forward, give 3 or 4 point to way forward. One is targeted and layer approach, strengthen pre-access measure, improve school quality, expand beyond public jobs, strengthen legal safeguard or vocational training, capacity building, community engagement. So these 4-5 point on way forward you have to give. So this is our best solution for this type of question. Now this is our second last question. What is global? So the question is, globalization has increased urban migration of skilled, young, unmarried women from various classes. How has this trend impacted upon their personal freedom and relationship with family? See the very beautiful crafted question. So the question first is globalization, increase urban migration by skilled, young and unmarried women. So it's specifically talking about skilled, young and unmarried women, that due to globalization which will impact urban migration of skilled, young and unmarried women from various classes. How has this trend impact? First, how this impact on their personal freedom, this is first part, and then relationship with family, this is second part. So the question itself is very broad. So here it is easy to generate the mention. Either 1 point you have to write about the skill women, then 1 or 2 point on the young, 1 or 2 point on the unmarried women. So if you think about that, there are many points that you can write in this question. So first demand is that globalization created a ground for urban migration, which create a service oriented space, which led to migration of skilled, young and unmarried women. Earlier what happened? Women migration is basically considered is due to marriage. But due to this globalization which increased urban migration, and there is service oriented space is more now, more economic opportunities in urban area which attract the skilled, young and unmarried women in urban areas. So the globalization set the stage for this urban migration of skilled, young and unmarried women. The second demand is that how this urban migration of these women impact on personal freedom. That due to this urban migration of skilled unmarried women, how this will impact their personal freedom. So you have to write the positive impact and the negative impact also. Third is impact on relationship with family. So how the urban migration of these women impact the relationship with their family. So here you also write the positive impact and the negative impact. So, and in conclusion, the best way to conclude this answer is interference. But you have right above, a good interference is a conclusion. So conclusion. So conclusion is inference of above body part is the best conclusion for this type of answer. Now in the intro part, what you have to write, see, you don't have much data on this. If you have data, then it is easy to write the introduction that these skilled young or unmarried women are moving towards the urban area. So we don't have much data on this. So the best way to start the introduction is link globalization. So link globalization with urban migration. Urban migration of skilled, young and unmarried women. So in intro part, link this. Link globalization with urban migration that create service oriented space, that create more economic opportunities, which attract the young women and the skilled women towards the larger area, towards the urban area. Now second part after introduction. So in a body part, so in the body part, first is impact on personal freedom. So what are the impacts? So first, right, positive impact. So due to this urban migration of women, what are the positive impact on personal freedom? So what happened? There is financial independence. So now these skilled young and unmarried women are more financially independent due to this. Second is autonomy to choose their partner. So now they have autonomy to choose their life partner. So this is also a positive impact for women. Third, so there is financial independence, there is autonomy. So there is cosmopolitan identity. So now the women, see, women life. So women, earlier what happened? Women doesn't have their own identity. So due to this urban migration, due to this financial independence, due to this autonomy that was given by this urban migration, so this the cosmopolitan identity is given to women. Now the women have their own identity. So these also impact their personal freedom. Now what are the think about the negative impact of this? So negative impact. What are the negative impact? So there is a safety issue. There is workforce harassment. There is mental health issue. Also in news. So these type of issues which are negative impact of urban migration of these women on personal freedom. Now the impact on relationship with the family. So what are the positive impact? Think about the positive impact due to this migration on relationship with family. So first is pride feeling. So when the daughter is more successful, more financially independent, so there is pride feeling for parents. Second is value system changes. Value system, it also impact the value system, because what happen now, the traditional value system changes to modern value system. Modern value system, but they have the negative impact also. What are the negative impact? See, distance from parents. Distance, they are living in urban area and parents are living in a village, so there is a distance in relationship. Distance in relationship. There is also a conflict on value system. So this can be in the positive impact also, but in the negative there is a conflict due to this value system changes, because women which are living in the urban area are more liberal, open mindset, reflect this modern value system, but parents are strict, they reflect traditional value system. So there is also conflict between the parents and the women. So this is positive impact on relationship with family, and there is also a negative impact on relationship with family. Now see the see the model answer. So you have to connect globalization with urbanization, and then with the urban migration of skilled, unmarried and young women. So these trend mark a migration pattern dominated by marriage or family. Earlier, see, I told you earlier what happened. The trend of this migration is due to marriage or family, but due to this service oriented space that created by urbanization, this trend is not reverse, but the another trend is there for which women is migrating. Positive impact on personal freedom. So there is more economic independence, more social autonomy, career growth, education advancement. Delayed marriages, self confidence, because women are more feel more self confident now. Positive impact on family relations. So there is pride and status. There is economic support. Now the women give the financial support to their family. The social capital, wider network help in family upward mobilization. Then the negative impact, safety concern, workforce discrimination, cultural stereotyping, mental health challenges. So negative impact, value system conflict, because the traditional value conflict with the modern values. Marriage pressure aspirations, perceived neglect, reduce physical presence at home, there is a distance between the parents and the child, and mistrust and control, that some family impose stricter restriction on women, so there is mistrust and control. So in this way you have to write both positive and the negative impact. So conclusion, the migration of skilled young, so this is inference only, the migration of skilled young and unmarried women in globalization, in globalized era is a both marker and driver of social transformation. While it empower women, though independence and personal autonomy, it also trigger new challenges like culture, like workforce, family counseling. So policies like, see one happen now. So while it empower women through economic independence and personal autonomy, it also trigger new challenges like work-life balance, cultural acceptance, policy ensuring safe urban space. So you are also giving the solution. Policy ensuring safe urban space, gender sensitive workplaces and family counseling can help maximize the positive outcome while mitigating the negative, ensuring that this migration trend strengthen both women rights and social harmony. So in this way you give the inference or significance, and if space left then you can also write some solution also for that negative impact that you have written. Now came to our last question of this session, that is critically analyze the proposition that there is high correlation between India's cultural diversity and socio-economic marginalization. So the keyword is critically analyze. What you have to analyze? The high correlation between India's cultural diversity and second is socio-economic marginalities. So what is the demand of the question? That you have to analyze the correlation between the, so there exists a correlation between the India's cultural diversity and socio-economic marginalities. But here is the term critically analyze. So you have to first give 4-5 points on the correlation, that there exists a correlation between these two, but you have to also reflect the other part of the coin, that correlation not existed between these two, between this India's cultural diversity and socio-economic marginalization. Also, third, you have to give other reasons also. Other reason also that why these socio-economic marginalities existed in our society. One, that is somehow there is Indian cultural diversity reflects socio-economic marginalities, but there are other reasons as well. Then give 4-5 that reason that leads to socio-economic marginalities. And then the fourth is conclusion. So in this type of question, you have to either inference, either significance, or constitutional provision you also mention in the conclusion. So in this way you have to write this answer. So start with the intro. So there are two terms in the question. One is India's cultural diversity and second is socio-economic marginalization. So first in intro part, what you have to do in intro, link these two terms. Link to this India's cultural diversity, that there is variation in language, religion, culture, ethnic group. So there is India's cultural diversity linked to socio-economic marginalities, that this diversity is when this diversity, see in India we celebrate diversity, but when this diversity is exploited with some fringe element, then it impact the social economic marginalities. So otherwise diversity is not linked to socio-economic marginalities, but if the diversity is exploited with some fringe element, then this diversity may impact the socio-economic marginalities. So in this way you have to link both the term, the India's cultural diversity and socio-economic marginalities in your intro part. Now now came the body part. So here first is high correlation, that yes, there is a correlation between the diversity and the socio-economic marginalities. So there you have to give 3 or 4 points, that what are the correlation between the between these two. And then in the body part, second you have to write the no relation. So here you also give 2-3 points on that. And then other reasons as well. Other reasons other reasons, and fourth is conclude your answer. So first, you know how to write introduction. First, link that India is known for pluralistic cultural landscape, diverse in language, religion, caste. However, beneath this diversity lie a uneven social structure, socio-economic structure, where certain cultural groups remain socio-economic disadvantage. So you have to develop the link between these two terms. Now, this is 15 marker question, so you have to make your answer presentable also. So use this type of diagram or flow chart where you will give the definition of both terms. So here you will define cultural diversity. So this will make your answer more presentable. And here the socio-economic marginalities. So here define what is socio-economic marginalities. So in this way you make a diagram. Then come to body part. Then you will define the high correlation between them. So there is different due to diversity there is different language. So first point is language. So due to diversity there are many language in our India. So there are 700 plus dialects. But some language are not well represented in India. So there exists a social marginalization due to this language. Second, there is religion. So what happened? There are many religion in our society, which is diversity. But what happened? See, Muslims are very less economic developed religion community. You can quote here Sachar Commission report. So these Muslims are now socio-economic marginalized people because they are less developed, they have less opportunity, they have less economically strengthened people. So however, there is a number of religion in our society, but due to there is some correlation that some religion are not represent or exist in minority, so they face some socio-economic disadvantage. So one is religion, one is language, third is tribal people. So tribal people, they live in the isolated area, they are not they have no education, no healthcare, nothing. So living in isolated area, so they are socio-economic disadvantaged people. So this also make a correlation between the two terms, that is cultural diversity and other is socio-economic marginalities. So the tribal alienation is one point. Now there is no relation. So first there is high relation, there is caste based marginalities. You can give this data also, NSSO 2017 and 18, where SC household earn 21% less than the national average in rural area. Then the tribal community which are living in the isolated area, they are less developed, no education, no healthcare. Then the religious minority, give example of Muslims community and give example of Sachar Commission report. Then the regional and linguistic marginality, because there are many language which are not proper represent in our society, and they are we know that the border regions are also have unique culture and unique language, but they are lagging in development. Then there is no relation. So there is no relation with the diversity and marginalities. So in this you have to give example, like you have give example of Muslim, so you can also give example of here Parsis. So Parsis are also in minorities, Sikhs are also in minorities, but what they are more They are more economically developed. Parsis, Sikh, they are more economically developed. So you can also mention the government initiatives also, that reservation policy and targeted welfare had reduced the gap for some marginalized community. And then you can also mention the urbanization and globalization also reducing this gap between this marginalized community. So in this way you have to write that there is no relation between the cultural diversity and the marginalized people. So after that you give another reasons also that why these marginalities existed. So there is lack of access to education, there is geographical isolation, there is political representation and historical discrimination also. So there exists a historical structural inequality in our society. So not only the diversity is have some relation with the socio-economic marginalities, but there are other reasons as well. So you have to give 3-4 reasons as well, or one liner point. Then conclude your answer that while India's cultural diversity often overlap with socio-economic marginality due to historical exclusion and structural inequality, the relationship is neither universal and nor detrimentistic. With targeted policy, inclusive growth model and empowerment of marginalized voice, cultural diversity can transform from a maker of deprivation to a driver of resilience and program. So in this way you have to conclude your answer. So all questions are done here. Hope this now clear that how you will approach the question, how you write the question, structure your answer in a best way. In a 5 or 10 minutes you have to structure your answer, that what are the demand of the question, how I'll write this question. And then also I'm also one second, where is pen? And also now you know how to write intro and conclusion. So first, intro and conclusion. So first analyze the question, what is asking in our question. According to that you will write your intro and conclusion. So hope this helped. Happy learning.